And that's a 2013 scatter plot. But it probably...
Where's this from?
It's 2013.
Oh, Morningstar.
So you can throw scatter plots for the trailing 12 years. You can throw scatter plots to currently what's going on, what's undervalued. And you can say, hey, listen, here's the long-term view of like farmland, and here's the short-term prices. Farmland's been crushed.
Right. So you have to pick your spots. I mean, that's kind of what you're saying.
Exactly. You just want to pick a spot that would move the needle, grab my attention. Because you only have 2 pages. You're not trying to educate me. You're just trying to give me ammunition relative to what the market's going. Timely, actionable data would be the most beneficial. Actionable in that I can use it to quell clients' fears. I can use it to pull money off the table, lighten up. Or I can use it to determine how I want to deploy new assets.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's very helpful. That's super helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So today, I think what we talked about, what I wanted to try to do this time was to talk a little bit. This is sort of more about the background, and then after this, we'll be going into more of the detail.
Okay.
But I really wanted to talk about West Point. I think that's really an important topic that we haven't discussed in any great length.
Okay.
And not in every. It's not like I don't know how much you want to get into it, but
I don't know what's. You need to dig as deep as you think you can to write this book, because I wouldn't know what to say. I tend to downplay my military accomplishments and achievements. They seem to be irrelevant to most people. In the last 10 years, West Point has become more relevant in the society.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to remember, when I went there, people hated military people, and I still went there.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't change the standards at West Point. They still kicked our ass, right? It was like, we know we're unpopular, and they didn't care. So I really don't know what's an appropriate amount. So I'm at your disposal.
All right. So what I wanted to do was, I'd like to talk about some of the people who influenced you, some of the experiences that influenced your views on working with people or solving problems, or that have carried over, and that how that experience might still be useful for other people to learn from what you learned from that. Do you see where I'm going with that? It's
Okay.
I think I think it was very formative. We've talked about some of the people, some of the individuals, some of the early experiences, diving. I think all of that that's formative to how you view the world and how it's changed, how it has created your own perspective on solving problems and dealing with situations and all that. I think this is sort of the one piece, and then obviously once you get there, the sort of the chronology and the bio of how you went from there and got into financial services.
Okay.
But that I think it's a really important part of who you are, and I think it'd be really interesting for the book to talk about that. And I think it's a great subject that you talk about. It was unpopular then; it's more popular now. It comes in and out of fashion. West Point's always going to be around. It's always going to have a place in the U.S. It serves a great purpose. And I think it would be useful to talk about how that has served you and how that's shaped you and how that's directed you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so if you want to talk about, what I'm interested in is, you had a vision for what West Point was going to be before you showed up. And then you got there. And I'd love to hear you talk about, your first impressions and what that did to you as a person. Like, I think at some point, I think you said that everybody that you meet there is outstanding in some respect. And then you find out that, you thought you were pretty great at stuff, and then it turns out everyone else is too, and maybe even more so. And what does that do? How does that shape your perspective on things?
By my senior year in high school, I thought pretty highly of myself. And no, I was probably in the top 10% of my classmates in experience and capability and where I was going. My future looked very bright. There was guys and girls that were much smarter than I was, and there was a few athletes that were better than I was. But I felt pretty secure in who I was and what I was doing. If you then lay that over on top of my dad's expectation to just be your best, be the best version of yourself, shoot for the stars, aim high, don't accept mediocrity. And the fact that my family had no money and I had junior college ahead of me if I didn't use my own innate skills to help find this college opportunity. My parents did absolutely zero for me in helping me at the conclusion of my high school career to get into college. I even had to buy my own bus tickets down to USC when I was recruited on an official trip for a scholarship. And ride in the back of a car with 4 other guys in a Cadillac on plastic seats to go up to the University of Oregon on a recruiting trip. Once you got there, they took care of all your expenses, but to get there was on you.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got scholarships from offers from USC, SMU, and University of Oregon, and I'd also applied for West Point. I was in hopes of getting a lot of money from one of those schools to help pay for my education. And since most of them offered scholarships plus work, you could work in the cafeteria or work in the library and get additional money, that's how they made up the full scholarship. Like that's what USC offered.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always hopeful that something would happen at West Point, but I was not expecting it. So when I got the telegram that I had, this was after I had received a nomination.
Mm-hmm.
So I was nominated like in March or April. And all that meant was I was in line with 16 or 18,000 other people for 1,400 slots. That's all that meant. I wasn't that excited about that. I mean, though it was an accomplishment to be nominated by a state senator,
mm-hmm.
who I was nominated by Senator Ed Murphy. I think his name was Ed. It was certainly Senator Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
So when I received my telegram, old school telegram, I mean, when they freaking cut it open and it's teletype in there, congratulations, you have been, you have received an appointment to the United States Military Academy at West Point. Effective immediately. Period. You are to confirm your acceptance of this appointment via telegram or phone call to USMA admissions within 24 hours. Be prepared to report, or no, you will report to duty. And it's like June 22nd 27th or 28th. Yeah, June 27th, 28th. At West Point, New York. That was the telegram.
Now, you'd never been there before.
Never been there before. Never even had seen a picture of it. I had read a book on it, and I had seen, my mother told me that I had seen a movie back when I was like in the 7th or 8th grade called The Long Gray Line, which is and we had a black and white TV, and it's a black and white movie. And so I saw, she said, well, I didn't see the whole thing. I came in and I saw the last half of it. And there was a lot of just individual scenes there where soldiers or cadets were harassing other cadets and they were working together. And so all the early scrolls of what it looked like in the beginning of the campus and all that were in the beginning of the movie, I didn't see that. So I truthfully had no clue where this place was. I just knew it was in New York, and I'd never been in New York. The furthest west I went to Texas when I was little. We drove from Lodi to Texas and back. So I've been to the Southwest. And the furthest east I had been was Elko, Nevada, or Yosemite, and Yellowstone was the two places I'd been. Elko, Nevada, that's pretty far east, and then you drive due north when they hit Yellowstone. So even though I traveled a lot on the western United States, I had not traveled at all east. My parents they didn't push me to go to West Point at all. My dad basically said he didn't particularly like the military. It was really hard on him. He had bad experiences. Took him away from two different jobs that he liked. When he got back, and the job he liked the best, when he got back from the Korean War, they didn't hold the job for him, whereas they held the job in World War II. I mean, they basically hired him back. They didn't really hold the job for him. They hired him back. And so it was hard on my dad because he had 3 kids and a wife and no job, and he was discharged like a lot of the soldiers coming home from the Korean War. So he took a job at Firestone Tire Company, building tires on the swing shift, on the graveyard shift. A friend of him got that job, and we lived with my cousins in half of a house. The front half of the house was rented out to somebody else, and we lived in the back half of the house. I just put like sheetrock, down the hallway, whatever it was. So there was a living room and like a little mini kitchen and a bedroom in the front, and there was like 2 bedrooms and a living room, a family room, and a kitchen in the back. And so we lived with the 6 of us and my would have been my mom's cousins and their 5 kids. So there was 11 of us living in a half of a house. Wow. For a long time. I mean, until my dad got enough money after the service to be able to afford to get our own place. So when I received the appointment to West Point, I was like absolutely no doubt in my mind what I was going to do. This was the star for me. This was my opportunity to be the best version of myself I could be. This was my opportunity to get an education beyond what my greatest dreams of a good education was going to be. This was my dream to get a personal challenge beyond any personal challenge I could ever have imagined. And this was an opportunity for me to step into a competitive arena with my diving that was probably as tough as it was going to be on the West Coast, but it was an opportunity to capitalize on that because my diving, along with my academics, along with my leadership, got me in. Those are the 3 areas that they rate people on. And I knew that my academics were not my highest skill set. I knew my leadership and my athletics probably were. And so it was my ticket. That's what I wanted. I maximized my skill set to get that ticket to get in there. And then I knew right away that failure was not an option for me. I hadn't even decided. I hadn't even reported back, but I was already thinking about it. About what the challenge was going to be, and I had read and heard enough about it that I knew that it was going to be a tall mountain to climb.
Did you know anyone else who'd ever gone to West Point?
No.
And you
didn't know anybody
and
else.
None of your classmates were. anywhere.
There was another one of my classmates that applied for West Point, got his nomination and appointment before I did. And he was a guy I really respected. He was very, very smart. Fairly athletic, but not an accomplished athlete. And maybe not as strong a leader based on what he'd accomplished leadership-wise versus what I'd accomplished leader-wise. But he was, again, he was in the very, very top 2% of my class, probably. He was way up there. And my class at my high school had 4,000 kids in it.
Wow.
Quite a big high school. So I immediately prepared for it. And
so did he end up going?
What's that?
Did he go?
He went.
Oh, he did? Okay.
He went, and we graduated together. Yeah.
Okay.
We graduated together. I rarely saw him, even though there was only 1,400 in our class. He was in a completely different regiment that I was in. He was more in the academic arena. I was more in the athletic arena. So after school, he would do different things than what I would do. So we didn't tend to run into each other. We would see each other, maybe 3 or 4 times a year is all we would. And I always liked him. He was a fine cadet and a fine officer. He stayed in after I got out. I don't know if he did his full career or not. I kind of lost track of him. And he hasn't come back I haven't seen him at a reunion lately, so I probably need to try to track. I don't do Facebook, but I probably have my wife see if she can track him down for me. Since this was about June 10th when I got my appointment, I had already graduated from high school. I was already working 60 hours a week at my job as a plumber and sheet metal guy for the plumbing and sheet metal shop I worked for all 4 years of high school. I had to give my boss early warning. He was excited for me. I had to call the SMU, the swimming coach at SMU, whose son applied for the Air Force Academy and got in, and was going to the Air Force Academy and not swimming for his dad at Southern Methodist University Mustangs, which is a very rich Presbyterian Christian school down in Dallas.
No, I know somebody.
Oh, you know, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So when I told him I got a nomination to West Point, he said, "Well, young man, I wish you the best of luck. If things don't work out, you call me up. You always have a home here."
Wow.
But he said, "You cannot afford to let this opportunity slip between your fingers, so I won't even hear of you doing anything but going there. And I am assuming that is your first choice, correct?" I said, "You're right. Yes, sir. I'm going to West Point." He goes, "Well, that's good. That's what I expect." And he says, after I heard you got into West Point and got your appointment there, he said, "I wouldn't even have you on my team now, because anybody that I want on my team will accept that kind of a challenge to run with the thoroughbreds." And he says, you'll do great. But if things don't work out, call me. Got a spot here on my team. And so that was kind of a backstop I had, but I didn't really want it because failure wasn't an option. I wasn't going to fail. I remember telling myself that when I got off the phone. That was really nice of him to say that. I'm never going to take him up on that offer because I'm never going to fail. Then my family's friends real quick put together a farewell party for me. And they invited over 30 or 40 people to their house. I went over there. It was my farewell party. And I'll never forget the father of this girl that was a friend of mine that kind of put it together. She like friends of the family, but she and I were really friends, but they were really closer friends to my sister. Gave me a going away present, and I opened it up, and it was a freaking civilian shirt, like the kind I would wear if I went to the office. A civilian dress shirt. And I looked at him perplexed, like, what is this? Like, I no more expected that as a man. I'm going to be wearing uniforms. They take away your clothes from you when you get there, and you don't even get to see them until you're a sophomore. You don't
didn't know that, I guess.
They're called civvies. Yeah. People, by the time I wear this shirt, they'll be out of style. You don't even know where I'm. And he looked at me, and he could tell I was befuddled. And then he said something to me, just like the swimming coach said to me. He said, "Just in case it doesn't work for you, you've got something you can put on and wear for a job interview." As far as I knew, I never opened the shirt. I never wore it. It was a funky looking greenish brown color anyway. And I like to wear button-down collars, and it just had the open collars with collar stays on. So when you button with a tie, the collar stays come down nice, right?
Right.
And I remember basically saying, "That's never going to happen. Not only am I never going to fail, you'll probably never see me again, because I'm going to graduate and go off and serve someplace overseas." And I just thought that was like the stupidest, dumbest thing. And you know what? That's what I remember most about that farewell party. I don't even remember who the other people were there. I remember somebody basically telling me, you may not be able to make it, kid. And if you don't make it, don't feel bad. But here's something you can... People that didn't believe in me. People that thought I needed a parachute. I know what I left that shirt at home in my drawer. I told my brother he could have it. He was going to college. I said, "You might need this. I'm not going to need it." So those two things were significant affirmations to me to set. I mean, I already had that mindset, but when somebody offered me an out, I found it an unacceptable out. So I obviously was already hardening up my mind of failure's not an option. So I started to go after this like I went after my springboard diving.
But you didn't know what you were getting into, right?
No.
I mean,
no, but I just knew. This will tell you, as I prepared in the next, because I had less than 7 days to go, 8 days, maybe, no, I think I had 1 week. I worked a week and then got on an airplane on Sunday and flew back. And I'd been saving my own money, so I bought my own plane ticket, and I flew TWA. And my mom said, "What are you gonna?" She said, "Son, I was looking. Coach tickets are like $80, and first class tickets are $145. You might want to think about doing that." And I said, "I think that's a good idea, Mom. I'm going to do that. I'm going to buy a first class ticket." So I got to sit in first class up in the nose cone of the 747, flown by TWA. It was a freaking awesome experience. I'd never in my lifetime seen agricultural circles everywhere on the ground. I didn't know an irrigation center hinge. I can't think of what they call them right now. They basically, the pipeline comes out the middle, they go in a circle, they water all the alfalfa. What do they call those things? I'll think about it here a second. I know the name of that thing. I just can't think of it. But I'd never even seen that. I was like, "Oh, what am I looking at?" It just blew my mind. And it blew my mind how big America was. I mean, we were flying freaking fast, like 500 miles an hour.
It's amazing.
And it took like 6.5 hours to fly across the countries. And it was a daytime flight. It was one of the few daytime flights I ever took, east to west. Almost always I was flying at night. But that was going there. I got to choose when I go. So, my own mantra to myself was, the only way I'm leaving this place is if I go in a body bag. They're gonna have to kill me. That's the only way I'm gonna fail, is that I died. And that kind of determination is really what I needed just to make it through. the minute I reported into duty to the first sergeant, my life changed 100% different than what I ever thought it was going to be. I mean, I knew it was going to be tough. I knew it was going to be all those things. It was 10 times whatever I thought it was like somebody said, you want to water ski for the first time? And they hand you a rope with about 10 foot of loop in it, and they tell the boat, hit it! And then you just hang it on the rope. Okay, now, and when the rope's ready to run out, you just step into the water. And it was like a snap start off the dock water skiing. Bam! I was immediately doing 45 miles an hour, and my head was spinning, and I barely could even think about what's going to happen in the next 10 seconds because I was worried about what's going to happen in the next 2 seconds. And that's the pressure cooker they put you in immediately. And they're experts at stressing you to the point where you never, ever have gone in your life before. I went through that first day in dress shoes, marching shorts, and a shirt that had my name on. They knew I was coming, right? Had all my stuff ready, right? And a duffel bag and another second duffel bag, and I'm reporting to all these different people. The red band, sir, new cadet Siegel reports to the band, the red. What are you saying, smackhead? Get you spit talk. Start over again. Like, sir, new cadet Siegel reports to the man, the red sergeant for the first time this day. Sir. And then take 2 more steps and get your ass jumped on for something else you didn't do right. So you literally were in a fog the first 24 hours. I can hardly remember anything but just a massive pressure cooker. And there's people there that just quit the first day. There was like 50 people that just like frickin' quit the first day. The reason we know that is we were out on the parade field ready to go into dinner, and they marched all these guys by. And they basically said, that's the platoon of shame. All those guys are leaving here. They never should have come here. They took space up, and it was like, oh my God, I would die before I was that. I mean, it was like the ultimate failure, the ultimate cowardice, the ultimate, are you kidding me? Beast barracks, as they call it, B-E-A-S-T, beast, beast barracks, because they treat you like a beast, a bird and a beast, was brutal. But they never physically hit me or pushed me or touched me. But they physically abused the crap out of us, like making us do push-ups, sit-ups, run up a hill, get dressed up in your clothes, get in the shower, get undressed, put all your aluminum in a mattress cover, put everything you own in a mattress cover, drag it down to the first floor, set up a tent out on the parade, be ready for inspection. You're not even quite ready. They give you 3 demerits because you're not ready. Tell you to get back at your room and get your room get ready for inspection. It's like everything you own is getting messed up, torn up, and so you have to you cannot get flapped about anything. You cannot get emotional. You just function. They want you to function. It's not yours to reason why. It is yours to do or die. Get it done now. And they give it and they shove it at you so hard that you cannot do it by yourself. So you need your roommates to help you out. You need because the whole room might be in trouble, but usually there's only 1 or 2 people at one time. And so you had your roommates that you could team up and help each other. So it was an unwritten, immediate bond of we're all going to cooperate and we're all going to graduate. We're gonna whatever it takes for us to get through. You're not going to show up at the finish line without your roommate. Your roommate's going to be there with you. Because if you showed up without your roommate, they would make sure that you failed on the spot. Because they don't want you to succeed individually. They want you to succeed as a team. So that was good for me because I know what team spirit is all about. I know what teamwork is all about. I was on a team. My diving only helped my team with the part that I could contribute, but I was just a contributor to the team. So using your resources around you and working as a team and giving as much as taking, see, that's the key. Everybody's good at taking, but not too many people are good at giving. I learned to be very good at both, because the quality of your take that you receive from somebody is directly proportional to the quality that you gave. And it may not happen the same day, the same week, or the same month, or it may not even be the same person. But if it's the group commitment, I may be getting help from somebody, and the person I may be helping, maybe this person over here, and I never paid that guy back, because what I needed, he had, and when he needed, he did. What I had, he didn't need, but this guy did. So that collective cooperate and graduate became the kind of the theme of every class that's there. Is we got to get together. We're not battling each other. No matter what they try to do, we're going to work together to achieve our vision, our goal, which is to graduate. So when I got to West Point, in Beach Barracks, I found out that I was a little bit better than average. I could run as far, climb as high, carry as much weight, do as many pull-ups, shine my shoes as well as the next guy, study my material, memorize stuff, though it took me longer to memorize than some of my classmates. And we had to memorize just mountains and mountains of information. Some of the information we memorized was just garbage. I had to memorize everybody's full name in the senior class in your company, and the junior class and the sophomore class. So there's 50, 60 names in every class, and they would just have you do the class rolls. Somebody would say, "Mister, who am I? Sir, I do not know. Start the third class roll now, and in reverse order." And so you have to start going backwards down, and then you get to Mr. Uteri or something like that. Hopefully it was low. His name wasn't Baker, and he was like really, mid. And he goes, "All right, stop. So who am I? Sir, you're Mr. Baker. You're right. Don't ever forget my face again. Look at me, smack." Because before you just, you look straight ahead, right? You don't gaze. You never look left or right. You just look straight ahead.
So did they give you tools on how to do that?
No.
Just you had to figure it out?
Just do it. Yeah, they were famous at not coaching anything. Just to jam it. They just jammed you with it. So you were constantly kind of innovating, or your roommates were innovating, and you were sharing or working out because they just wanted it done. My entire 4 years at West Point was never one of somebody lecturing to me, telling me how to do something. It was always of self-discovery. Read it, discover it, practice it, display it. And then they would test you on it. And then at the end, they would say, "Okay, we saw people do this. We found that these three principles work the best. So for those three that, you found, you guys all got passing scores. For the other people, you all failed." That's kind of how they did it. They wanted you to discover and find the best way. Academically, they would always say, in trigonometry, they would say, calculus was the big class we had our freshman year. We all had calculus. They'd say, read pages 105 to 118 and do the questions at the end, and that would be it. And it would be a really complex mathematical, 8 pages long of freaking, are you kidding me? And then they would walk in, they'd say, "Do you have any specific questions from the homework last night?" And if you didn't have a specific question, because you couldn't say, what was it all about? Or, you had to say, in problem 3 of the practice exams, they had a linear progression and I didn't understand where that component on that compounding factor, where that came from. You could ask a question like that. The rest of the time they'd say, "Okay, no questions," because there almost were never any questions. Say, "Okay, take boards," and you go up on the board, and even boards that have one problem and odd boards that have another problem, and you'd work on it for 15, 20 minutes. He'd say, "Okay, sit down, take chairs, take seats." You'd sit down, and he'd come around and he'd grade them. And you had to stand, you had to stand this far from the board right here. And the guy next to you had a different problem, and the guy next to you had a different problem. So if I was going to see a board, I would have to go like this to see way down there. Mm-hmm. Of course, then if I was caught doing that, they'd kick me out of the academy for cheating. Mm-hmm. So you had to stand real close to the board.
You're all doing the same problem.
And we're all doing different, odd boards are doing one problem, and even boards. So there's, on both sides of you, there was strangers.
I see.
And so there was never any opportunity. But even if there was an opportunity, I would never even think about that. I mean, the penalty is death.
Right.
If you get caught cheating, you are out of the academy. So, dude, that's not even an option. So cheating or being untruthful is not an option. That might be something that, we're talking about if there's not an option. A cadet does not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those that do. And if you get caught doing any of those, you are out of the academy. And they don't have a full tribunal. It's a cadet court hearing. Mm. You can have a cadet represent you, or you can represent yourself in your defense. And then they introduce the evidence against you, and a 3-member jury of your peers votes up or down. They then, and if you choose not to leave the academy, then they will silence you, which means no one will talk to you at all. And that pretty much is like solitary confinement. And there's been 1 or 2 cadets that have actually graduated that were in solitary confinement, basically. But that's it's horrific. It's horrific because nobody can help you. You're on your own. It's the end of the world for most people. So lying or cheating is not an option. And the consequences of that is you either prepare and succeed, or you don't prepare and you fail. If you fail, you get marked down because they grade you every single day. There is no holiday. So sometimes you would have to go into class not prepared, and you would just pray that you could weather the storm that day. But most every day you studied and you prepared for it because you had to, because there's no way of getting around that. Whatever you know is going to be tested, graded, and at the end of every semester, your grades are there. And if you fail a class, and we graded on a scale of 3.0, so 2.0 or better was a pass, 1.99 or less was a fail. And if you failed a subject, the academic board would then, which is now made up of officers who had no mercy, they would hold a board, and most everybody's kicked out at that point in time.
Is that one class or?
One class. That's all you need. Some cadets, they're junior and senior, that were really good people, and had found a class or something that they didn't do well in, were given an option to come back during their 30 days of summer school, 30 days of leave, and do a 30-day crash course, and then take the test. But that was considered a luxury. Very few people got that, but some people did. Most everybody was just kicked out academically. So academic expulsion and voluntary termination. Took my class down. We started with a little over 1,400, and we graduated 756.
Wow. That's amazing.
It was one of the higher attrition rates at West Point.
So can you tell me how you changed from the day you got there to the day you ended? Do you feel like you were a different person at the end of that? Or was you the same person, but you learned skills that allowed you to succeed regardless of circumstances?
I was the same person, but the best rendition of myself. So all those things that were not a strength of mine or an asset of mine were chipped away at and reduced or minimized. And those things that were good or strength were maximized. And almost every other skill set in middle was elevated to a much higher level than what I never would have thought was possible. So at the end, when I looked at myself, my freshman year, my senior year, I would have not have said that was possible. I would have not have said I could have achieved and accomplished that. And so it took that kind of a pressure, almost like when people are put into unbelievably difficult situations, they answer the bell. They get strong and they lift a snowmobile off of their wife that rolled over on top of them. Or somebody's drowning and they dive into ice cold water and they swim 100 yards and pull somebody back out, and the water is 22 degrees, and they just, or they have a broken leg and they go 5 days through the mountains with a broken leg, dragging their leg behind them, and they don't give up. Or POWs in a concentration camp, or soldiers in war. That man's greatest version of himself usually comes from great personal challenge. Because we ourselves would not have ever put ourselves in that kind of a situation voluntarily.
Right.
To know what we can actually do. We are all capable of doing so much more than what we believe we can. And the other thing that was very humbling about West Point is I no longer felt like, I was pretty damn good. I just felt grateful. I felt grateful and gratitude to my friends. I respected them mightily. They respected me. And though we knew we were very good, we were all humble because we had all seen ourselves fail and been to the brink. And that's very that is a very humbling position to be in, when you realize I cannot do one more push-up, and the guy steps on your back, tells you get up, and you really can't even push up to get up, so you have to roll over and use a different set of muscles or something to get up. So when you've been pushed that hard, you recognize that everybody has their breaking points, and everybody has a limit. And we were grateful that we walked right up to that wall, and we took that failure on, and we, whatever the penalty was for that we failed, we ate that, and we moved on, and we survived it. And maybe the survival was somebody helped us. Maybe the survival was the officers that were running us felt that we had accomplished enough that they stopped. Or once you've reached your physical or mental maximum, what's there left to do? I mean, they can shoot you at that point, or kick you out or something if it's not adequate. But I guess it's taking you to your outer limits of what you think you can persevere, what you can endure, what you can learn, what you're capable of. Taking you to your outer limits of what your academic capability can be, of what your physical capability can be, and going there again and again and again and again allows you to understand that when you are in deep, deep trouble, or when you're in a crisis, I'm not thinking about failure. I'm thinking about how I'm going to succeed. Failure's not an option. What can I do next? because I have never not had an option. You know, I have never come to the end of the line and this is where I die. I mean, I will someday, but so far this taught me to go right up to that wall and keep working through it. And use your team.
So
use your team.
Right.
And it's because you cannot do it by yourself. So use your team, use your resources, use your training, ask for help, ask for ideas, collaborate. That collaboration has been very, very useful. You must be humble and modest enough to ask for help when you need it.